So next, I'm going to invite up Dani Guzman, who is a CARES ambassador with CSSP and also a young person who, fortunately, I got to have dinner with last night because I'm in Los Angeles this week. And so I actually got to have time connecting in person. I, full disclosure, serve on the board of Center for the Study of Social Policy. So it was really nice to get to meet a CARES ambassador from CSSP and learn a little bit more about what they do and what happens. So let's see if we can find Dani and get Dani up here. Dani, if you want to join us on video, we'll spotlight you up here. There you are. Perfect. All right, Dani, take it away.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Elliot. So a little bit about my background is I actually have lived experience in the foster care system. I have about 15 years experience. I entered the system when I was 7 years old, and I didn't leave until I aged out and went to college. So it's interesting to hear some of the things that Rebecca highlighted because it's something that I want to talk about, which is like having foster parents and obviously being in the system at such a young age. A lot of the crucial years of finding identity and figuring out who I was in the system, and not having trained foster parents for what I was going through and what I was trying to figure out definitely impacted me in negative ways. Um, so I remember being in the system and having a foster parent from the age 10 to 15 and thinking that I was going to be adopted and being excited to have um, a mother finally, right? And then once it became me finding out who I was and trying to find um, my identity and my sexuality, it was very difficult because I didn't have that support, right? Um, this woman was somebody who grew up in the South and she had very, what we call traditional views, um, and didn't really understand or support me in any ways. I know it was very difficult because um, I looked to this person as a mother and I looked to her for support, and it just wasn't there. I was met with mean remarks and difficult comments, and I didn't really understand like how can somebody who's known me for so long, who wanted to be my mother, just like change like a light switch and was just like, this is too much for me. I don't have the capacity to deal with their situation. And then I had to transition to different foster homes. And I remember after that, being in foster home after foster home. In 1 year, I was in three different homes. And that was very difficult for me because it was just like my whole life and what I knew to be my norm switched overnight. Um, and like I said, at these crucial ages, at this time, I was only 15, um, going through high school and trying to navigate what my life was going to look like after. And that was just very difficult. So now a lot of the work that I do and consist of, and with as a CARES ambassador, we do have like a policy agenda where we talk about um, different recommendations for like the child welfare system and just families, children's and families overall. And one of the things we highlight is actually um, wellness and how to support youth and families with like treatments and mental health and things like that. And a lot of the things that I talk about is like trauma based treatment because for me, that was such a traumatic experience. And I try to think of ways in which I wish I could have had support or just um, a network or family. So spaces like this to me are very important because I get to meet a lot of other people and panelists who works in ways to support youth differently and how that may look differently, whether that's legal or consulting or just talking about their personal experiences, period. Um, and yeah, so I just appreciate this space. I don't know if you guys have any questions for me. I know that we're very limited on time and I don't want to take up too much time. Um, but yeah.
Yeah, Dani, could you tell us a little bit about being a CARES ambassador and what that means?
hmm So I got into the CARES work its very first year, so in 2020, and I have been a part of it since. And it just really looks like me and 11 other lived experience experts um, really just talking about different policy recommendations and what we see, and based on our lived experiences in the system and how we can support each other and others and other youth that will navigate systems and what that looks like. We have recommendations on how we can support families and youth with young children. We have recommendations on mentorships. We have recommendations on housing and how we can support youth with like financial barriers and things of that nature. Um, a few that have been like very important to me has been housing. That's something that we talk about, especially in LA, where it's so expensive, so very expensive. Um, because with my experience, I was able to secure a housing voucher, and then there were barriers where I couldn't use the voucher. Also, being a young person, we don't learn about credit. So then, when it came to apply for housing and having these barriers of making 3 times the rent, I don't know many young people my age in LA that makes 3 times the rent and can just sign an apartment without a co-signer. So just those different barriers, which I love because I get to talk about my personal experiences and think about ways in which we can better the system so that other youth don't have to have these barriers that I have to like encounter.
Dani, I really appreciate you joining us today and the work that you've
Thank
been doing. Thanks for
you.
being here. I hope that you have a good rest of your day. And just, yeah, thanks for
Thank
joining us
you.
to start your work day.
Of course. Thank you all for being here again. And it really means a lot to have this network. And I look forward to um, connecting with a lot of you. So thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And you can learn more about CARES at cares, the number 4power.org. Feel free to visit the website to learn a bit more. You can also see their policy, youth-centered policy agenda that Liz Squibb put in the chat, and we'll put in the YouTube chat as well. Thanks, Dani, for being here.